Hello students, this is Professor Vincent Usaga. Welcome to my Intermediate Accounting 1 class. This is the presentation of Chapter 6, Accounting and the Time Value of Money. This chapter is a bridge between the previous chapters we have completed and subsequent chapters. Let me explain. You see, in Chapter 1, we talk about the overview of accounting and the accounting standards. We talk about the fact that the financial accounting deals with accounting information that is provided to outsiders or decision makers. And we said that the accounting standards are the guidelines for doing so. In Chapter 2, we talk about the conceptual framework of accounting, and we said that is the basis. That is the basis for the establishment and revision of accounting standards. Then in Chapter 3, we zero in on accounting information systems, and we said that that is a system that we put in place to help us to measure and process business activities and ultimately communicate the underlying financial report or information to different interested parties or different decision makers. Then in Chapter 5, chapters 4 and 5, we cover the three fundamental financial statements, and they are the income statement, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows. We indicated that the information that we provide to external users primarily is communicated via these financial statements, okay, and other financial statements that we are going to talk about eventually. So income statement, balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows. And we also said that the most important part of what we do as an accountant, or the most important part of our service, is providing valuable, useful information to decision makers. Like we indicated earlier, accountants are in the business of information because that is a critical or integral part of what we do. Now, that being said, subsequent to Chapter 6, or starting from Chapter 7, every topic that we are going to cover after Chapter 6 is going to zero in on a particular account or line item on the financial, on one of the financial statements. And we are going to talk about that topic in great details. So for example, in Chapter 7, we are going to zero in on cash and receivables. So those are balance sheet items or accounts that are reported in the balance sheet. Then in Chapter 8, we are going to focus on inventories, another balance sheet item. So subsequent chapters, like I said, are going to deal with individual financial statement line item in great details. Now, so here is the connection between Chapter 6 and previous chapters and subsequent chapters. See, Chapter 6 deals with the time value of money. You see, there are several accounting topics that relate to the time value of money concepts. So in Chapter 6, we are going to talk about this concept or these concepts in great detail because, like I said, we are going to be dealing with a lot of accounting topics with time value of money concepts applications. Now, that being said, this chapter, that is Chapter 6, is divided into 5 categories. Number 1, we have the basic time value concepts. 2, single sum problems. 3, annuities. 4, more complex situations. and the last piece is present value measurement. Now, let's take a look at the objectives one by one. The first objective is we are going to identify accounting topics where the time value of money is relevant. And before we do that, let's take a look at the time value of some concepts of time value of money. So we say, what is time value of money? We say it's a relationship between time and money. What does that really mean? Time, the relationship between time and money is a notion or idea that says that the money right now, or the present money right now, is worth more than the same amount in the future. Why? Because the money right now can be invested and it will generate more money in the future. So today's dollar, as indicated, received today is worth more than $1 promised at some time in value. Again, the most important thing is the fact that the current money right now has the potential to earn more into the future. Now, here we said that when deciding among investment or borrowing activities, it is important that we take into consideration time value of money, because $1 today is worth more than $1 in 5 years. Why? Because we can invest $1 today, and that $1 today will earn X amount of dollars within 5 years period. Now, let's take a look at some present value based accounting measurements. What are we talking about here? Like I indicated in the opening part of chapter 6, we said that we have various accounting topics with time value implications. And here are some of those topics: notes, leases, number 5, share-based compensation, so on and so forth. In this chapter, in this class, and especially in intermediate accounting 2, we are going to be dealing with various accounting topics with time value concept applications. So it is very important that we have an understanding of this topic. Now, let's take a look at the nature of interest. The question is, what is interest? We said that for the lender, interest is the payment for the use of money. In other words, I don't mean the lender, I mean the borrower. For the borrower, interest is the cost of borrowing money over a period of time. Whereas for the lender, interest is the receipt or the benefit for allowing another person to use your money over a period of time. So for the borrower, interest is a cost. For the lender, interest is a benefit. It is a revenue. It's the money that you receive for allowing another party to use your money over a period of time. So we call that the excess cash received. That is for the lender, or the excess cash repaid, and that is for the borrower over the amount lent or borrowed. And the amount borrowed, as you know, is called the principal. So here are some variables in interest computation that we need to know. Number 1, principal, that is the amount that you borrowed. Interest rate, that is the percentage of the principal that you are going to pay as a borrower, or that you are going to receive as a lender. That is interest. The interest rate is used for the calculation of the money that you are going to receive as a lender, or the money that you are going to pay, which is the cost, as a borrower. Now, the time is the number of years of fraction portion a year that the principal is outstanding. Now, let's take a look at the second objective, and that is we are going to make a distinction between simple and compound interest. Okay, now what is simple interest? We said that interest calculated on the principal only. So if we use the interest rate to calculate or compute the interest, we said that we calculate or we compute the interest based only on the principal, we said that that is simple interest. Let's take a look at an illustration here. B Electric borrows $10,000 for 3 years at a simple interest rate of 8% per year. We are asked to compute the total interest to be paid for 1 year. So here you have it. As you are already aware, the formula for computing interest is interest is equals to principal times interest times time times interest rate times time. So here is the formula here. In this case, the principal is 10,000, interest rate is 8%, and the time is 1 year. So that gives us 800. So that is the annual interest. Now, let's explain this a little bit further. Here is another example. Let's assume that we are computing the total interest to be paid over 3 years period. For simple interest, we are going to calculate the interest only on the principal. Okay, in this case, we are going to use the same formula as you can see. 10,000, which is the principal, times 8% multiplied by 3, that will give you 2,400. Again, we are calculating interest strictly on the principal. That is simple interest. Now, still talking about simple interest, how about if we are talking about a situation whereby we are dealing with partial year? So in this case, the $10,000 is borrowed over 3 months at 8% per year. Now, I want you to know that interest rate specified on business deals or business situation automatically by default refers to a year, except if otherwise indicated. So in this case, as you can see, the 8% here refers to a year. So we borrow $10,000 for 3 months at 8% per year. So the question is, what is the interest? Now again, we are going to use the same formula, principal times the interest rate multiplied by the time. In this case, the time is 312 because the money borrowed is only for 3 months period. So when we do the math, we have $200. So this fraction 312 is another way of making adjustment to the interest rate, or alternatively, another way of looking at it is 8% of 10,000 is the interest for a whole year. Of course, since we are zeroing in on only 3 months, or we are borrowing the money for only 3 months, we need to make the adjustment. So that is simple interest. Now, let's take a look at how we use interest tables. So we have talked about simple interest. So let's take a look at compound interest. Simple interest versus compound interest. Compound interest calculates or computes interest not only on the principal but also on the interest earned that has not been paid or withdrawn. So if you invest $10,000 over 5 years period, and the interest is calculated every year, as long as the interest amount is not given to you, the interest is being added to the principal in computing the interest for subsequent years. So that is what we mean by compound interest. In other words, the interest that you earn in one period is going to be added to the principal in calculating subsequent periods interest. Now, this is very typical in various business situations. So let's take a look at the illustration comparing simple interest and compound interest. So take a look at what we have here. This company deposit $10,000 in 2 different banks, and the interest rate for each bank is 9%. 10,000, 10,000, interest rate 9%, interest rate 9%. The difference is for Bank A promised to pay us simple interest, while Bank B promised compound interest. So let's take a look at the difference here. Based on our illustration, if you take a look at the first column, that is the First National Bank that promised to pay us simple interest. See, the interest calculation is based on $10,000 every single year. So the interest is $900 for each year for 3 years. So at the end of 3 years, we have earned $2,700 interest. 900 multiplied by 3, that would give us $2,700. Now, let's take a look at First Bank that promised to pay us interest compounded annually. So the first year, we earned interest of $900. That $900 was not given to us. So second year, the $900 is added to the $10,000 principal. So we now have $10,900 as the basis for computing or calculating the next year interest. Then we do the same thing in the third year. So as you can see, our total interest earned interest compounded annually is now $2,950.29 versus $2,700. So obviously we are better off with interest being compounded annually for 3 years as opposed to simple interest. So let's take a look at compound interest tables. These tables are mapped out with time value formulas, and these tables help us to calculate time value concept problems without the problem of using a formula at all times. So here are the interest tables, okay? The first table deals with future value of 1. Second table deals with present value of 1. Table 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. Now, look at the bottom, we talk about number of periods. How do we determine number of periods that we are going to use in compounding interest? The formula is number of years multiplied by the number of periods per year. Let me give you an example. So let's assume that we are compounding monthly. If we are compounding monthly and we have a 12 months period or 1 year business deal and we are compounding monthly, so we multiply 1 year by 12 months and that will give us 12 periods. So in other words, we are going to compound every month, and that will give us a 12 periods. Now, if we are the question is, how do we determine the compounding period interest rate? See, if the interest rate is 12%, that 12% automatically means 1 year. Since we are compounding monthly, that 12% has to be divided by 12. So the annual rate is divided by the number of compounding periods. Why 12? Because it is a 1 year deal. So if we do that, we wind up with 1%. So moving along, let's take a look at the first compound interest table. This is table 1. Now, this table helps us to determine how much principal plus interest a dollar accumulates to at the end of the 5 periods. And of course, we have 3 different interest rates here, 9%, 10%, 11%. So this table helps us to determine the factor that we are going to use to determine how much principal plus interest accumulates, compounded at the end of each of the 5 periods. Now, let's take a look at the formula to determine the future value factor. Like I said, we either use the formula to determine the principals and the interest, the amount that we are going to be paid or the amount that we are going to receive in the future, or we use the interest table. So here is the formula to determine a future value. So if we are determining future value or present value, we either use the table or we use the formula. Now, here the future value factor is determined as such. Here is the formula. FVF N1 equals to 1 plus I bracket to the n power. So the FVFN, that is the future value factor for n periods at I interest. The n stands for number of periods, I rate of interest for a single period. Now, let's take a look at the compound interest tables. By the way, this formula is the same thing as the interest table. In other words, this formula is used to calculate the future value interest factors that are mapped out in the future value table in terms of determining the principal and interest. So we are going to explain that a little bit further in a minute. So let's take a look at the compound interest tables. We did discuss this previously. So let's take a look at the second line item. If we have a situation whereby, okay, see here an example, we have 12% annual interest rate, okay? Now over 5 years compounded. So take a look at the second line. If we are compounding interest semi-annually, the question is, how many periods do we have? So the problem is 5 years and we are compounding interest semi-annually. So 2 times a year multiplied by 5 years, that would give us 10 periods. Now the interest rate per compounding period would be determined by dividing the annual interest rate, in this case 12%, by the number of compounding in a year. In this case, semi-annual, that is 2. 12% divided by 2, that will give you 6%. So we'll be looking at using 6%, 10 interest period in determining the, that is how we determine the number of periods and the number of years. Now, excuse me, that's how we determine the interest rate per compounding period and number of compounding periods. So, annually, quarterly, monthly. So, moving along, let's take a look at this illustration here. Here, a 9% interest rate compounded daily. So, we can also compound an interest on a daily basis. If we do that for an investment of 10%, and we compute the interest excuse me, daily, take a look at what happened. Even though the problem specified 9%, because we are calculating or computing interest daily, we are going to wind up with $942 as interest in 1 year. See, by so doing, the interest rate that we are actually getting is not 9%, rather it is 9.42%. That is the power of compounding, because when we compound the interest in 1 day, the interest we earn in that 1 day is added to the principal for the calculation of interest in the second day, so on and so forth. So obviously, the more periods you compound your interest, the better off you are. The higher the effective interest rate, the higher rate you actually obtain. So, if you compound this $10,000 investment only once a year, your interest is going to be $900 versus compounding it daily, and you are going to have interest of $942. So that gives you an effective interest rate, or in other words, you are actually earning 9.42% interest rate. Now, moving along, let's take a look at Objective 4. We are to identify variables fundamental to solving interest problems. Now, so here are the basic variables that we need to know. Number one, rate of interest, the number of time periods, future value, present value. So those are the 4 variables. Now, let's look at Objective 5, solve future and present value of 1. Okay. Alright, let's take a look at single sum problems. When we talk about single sum versus what? Annuity. Single sum meaning we are talking about only one sum. For example, if we are to invest $10,000 today for 5 years versus investing $10,000 every year for the next 5 years. If we invest $10,000 today for 5 years, that $10,000 is a single sum. If we invest $10,000 every year for the next 5 years, that is not a single sum. That is what we call annuity. Okay. So, but here we are zeroing in on single sum problems. Now, here are 2 categories. We have unknown present value. We have unknown future value. What are we talking about here? You need to catch this. Number 1, we are either determining present value or future value. Okay, then number two, there are situations whereby we need to look for the interest rate or for the number of periods in a particular situation. So let's back off and explain a little bit more about these two categories. Um, Unknown present value versus unknown future value. What does that mean? That is simply saying if we are determining the present value of a particular amount, then we are referring to a future amount. And if we are trying to determine the future amount, then we are referring to a present amount. So we are going to explain that a little bit in a minute. So at this point, let's take a look at the future value of a single sum. So what do we have here? Here we are trying to determine the future value of a single sum. So the value at the future date of a given amount invested assuming compound interest. So what does that really mean? So when we are determining future value of a single sum, we are actually talking about present amount compounded into the future. So if I say, what is the present value of what is the future value of $1,000 in 10 years? When I say what is the future value, so the unknown is future value of what? $1,000. So if I say future value, the $1,000 is referring to present amount, and this present amount is going to be compounded into the future to determine the future value. So with the same token, if I say what is the present value of 2,000, what is the present value? So the question mark is what is the present value? So that is the unknown. Present value is the unknown. Therefore, I am talking about what? Future amount. So what is the present value of $2,000? That means I'm referring to future amount that is compounded backwardly to the present. You see, I said compounded backwardly because the compounding is the same concept. However, when we compound backwardly, we call it discount, but it's the same thing. All right, so let's take a look at the formula here for determining the future value of a single sum. So here are the variables. FV stands for future value, PV stands for present value, which is the principal of single sum. FVF stands for the future value factor for n periods at high interest. So let's put all these pieces together. Here's an illustration. The illustration here said the company wants to determine the future value of $50,000 invested for 5 years, compounded annually at an interest rate of 11%. So let's stop right there. What are we trying to determine? Future value. That is the unknown, future value. So whatever amount that we are talking about is present amount. So we need to calculate what this present amount is going to be. Excuse me. Is going to be in the future. Again, it is going to be compounded. Compounded monthly, quarterly, annually, however the case may be. So we are going to use the formula, or we use the table. All right. Now, at this point in time, let me share with you a very important formula that can be used to solve almost every present value, future value problem. And that formula is A is equals to B times C. The formula is as simple as ABC, and the formula is ABC. A equals to B times C. Now, what does that mean? Let's use this formula to illustrate this problem. Okay, now, this formula says if A is future value, then B has to be present value and vice versa. So if A is present value, B has to be future value. A is future value, B has to be present value. Multiplied by C has to be the future value factor of whatever A is. In this case, A is future value, that is the unknown. A must be, C must be the future value interest factor of A. So in this case, future value interest factor given a particular interest rate and a period. So here you have it for the ABC formula. So let's take a look at how this works. The problem said we are to determine what? Future value of $50,000. So A is the unknown. What is the future value? So B must be what? Present value. So the $50,000 that we are talking about is present value. So $50,000. Now we have to multiply $50,000 by C. A equals to B multiplied by C. Now, like I said, C must be the interest factor of A. So the future value interest factor given a particular interest rate and the period, we can use the formula like they did there, or we can use the table to determine the interest factor. So if we go to the next slide, okay, here we go. If we use this table instead of the formula, take a look at what happened. The table is future value of a single sum. Why future value? Because the unknown is future value. So we are going to take a look at the table. What is the interest rate? The interest rate is 11% for 5 period. So 11% future value interest factor, 11%, 5 years. So if we take a look at the table, the period is 5, 11% is this column. So 1.6850 is the interest, is the future value interest factor. So we multiply 50,000 by 1.6850. If we do that, we come up with 84,253. 84,253. All right. So the future value of $50,000 compounded annually at an interest rate of 11% is 84,253. That is how they have it worked out in this problem. So now let's take a look at what table do we use. We just illustrated that. We use the future value of a single sum table. Why single sum? Because the $50,000 is only a single sum, all right? Like we explained earlier. So here is how we use the table, all right? We multiply 50,000 by the future value interest factor, which is determined as we just illustrated using the period and the interest rate, and that will give us 84,253 as the future value. So, another illustration. $15,000 invested today in a fund to earn 8% compounded annually. To what amount will the investment grow in 3 years? So this is a single sum. We are investing only $15,000 today. The interest rate is 8%, and we are talking about 3 years. And this has to be compounded what? Annually. So again, we use the same formula. The most important thing I want you to know here is the fact that the key things are, it is a single sum, and the $15,000 that we're investing today obviously is the present value, is the present amount. Definitely the unknown has to be future amount. So we work it out just like we did a few minutes ago, and we find out that here is the future value interest factor for a single sum. We multiply that factor by 15,000, that will give us 18,896. Now, here is a proof of what we just did. In actuality, here, 3 years, you can actually calculate this manually. Take a look at how this is done. $15,000 multiplied by 8%, that will give you a 12% interest. Now, in the next year, this $1,200 interest is added to the principal, and that gives you $16,200. That becomes the basis for the interest calculation for the following year. And then the third year, the same thing. So as you can see, you have 18,896 as the future value in 3 years, interest compounded annually. So instead of going through all these troubles of calculating this manually, we can use a shortcut just like we did here. Multiply 15,000 by the future value interest factor, and that gives you 18,896. Okay, now we are still talking about future value of a single sum. Yes, the same illustration that we just completed. The only difference here is interest is being compounded semi-annually, not annually. So what table do we use? Again, we are going to use the future value table. Why? Because the $15,000 that we invested today is present amount. And the question is, what is the future value? So we are going to compound this $15,000, this time semi-annually for 3 years. Now, because we are compounding this semi-annually, obviously the interest is going to be higher than when we compound the $15,000 annually for 3 years. But the same methodology, So let's take a look at how we do this. Again, what factor? Again, we use the ABC formula. In this case, $15,000 is the present amount. So the unknown is future value. So A is future value. The present amount is 15,000. This is the previous illustration, 15,000. Then we look for the future value interest factor using the future value of a single sum. Why single sum? Because we are dealing with only one sum. If we do that, take a look at what happened. Because this is compounded semi-annually, like we indicated earlier, a couple of things we need to do here. The interest rate is what? 8%, that is per annum. So we need to divide that into 2 because we are compounding the interest semi-annually, 2 times a year. So the 8% becomes what? 4%. Now, how many years? 3 years. So how many periods do we have to compound this investment? 3 years multiplied by 2 times a year, that will give us a 6 period. So if we look at the table, look at the table, the period, we have 6. We trace it to the right. Here we have the interest rate column, and we trace it, the grid right there is 1.2653. So that is the future value interest factor. So we multiply that by 15,000, that will give us 18,980. So as you can see, the interest here is higher than when it was compounded annually. When it was compounded annually, we came up with 18,896. Here we have 18,980. Okay, moving along, let's take a look at single sum. We are still dealing with single sum problems. We are going to shift gear now and talk about present value of a single sum. So the present value is now the unknown. So whatever amount that we are referring to has to be what? Future amount. What is the present value? So whatever amount that we are referring to has to be future amount compounded backwardly. Compounded meaning the same calculation when we are compounding, but we are going to compound it backward. And we call that discount. When we do the compounding into the future, we say compounding. When we do the compounding calculation backwardly, we call it discount. So here is the formula again of determining what? Present value of a given amount to be paid or received in the future, assuming compound interest. So here are the variables. FV stands for future value, PV, present value, PVF, that is present value factor for n periods at n interest rate. So here is an illustration. What is the present value of 84,253 to be received or paid in 5 years, discounted at 11% compounded annually? So let's take a look at our ABC formula again. Like I said, the ABC formula works for almost every future value, present value problem. Now, let's take a look at what we have here. What is the unknown? Present value. The question is, what is the present value? So if A is present value, it is unknown, then B has to be future value. So which amount are we referring to? 84,000. 84,253. So A is present value, B has to be future value. Don't forget now, C has to be the interest factor of A. Since A is present value, C has to be present value interest factor, in this case 11%, and for 5 years. Alright? So we either use the formula or we use the table to determine the present value interest factor of 11% for 5 years. I multiply that by the future value to get the present value. So let's work that out. So how do we determine the present value? Which table do we use? Obviously, we use the present value of a single sum table because we are talking about single sum here. So if we take a look at the table, here's the table, 11% on this column. How many years are we talking about? Talking about how many periods are we talking about? 5 periods, 5 years. Interest to be compounded annually because interest is going to be compounded annually. So we have 5 compounding periods. So here is a 5-year. We trace it here, and we have 0.59345. So that is the factor. 5.59345. So $84,000, 253 multiplied by 0.5934 as the factor. When you do that math, that will give you what? $50,000. So the present value of 84,253 compounded annually for 5 years, 11% will give you $50,000. As you can see, we illustrated the same example when we were determining the future value. We determined the same example, $50,000 investment, and we calculated the future value. So the 50,000 was present amount. The question was, what is the future value? So we compounded that $50,000 every year for 5 years to give us 84,253. Now we are doing the same compounding, this time backwardly, and we call it discount, and we come up with the same amount, $50,000. So let's take a look at what we just illustrated. Oops. Here's another illustration of present value of a single sum. So this couple needs $25,000 in 4 years. What amount must they invest today if their investment earns 12% compounded annually? So the $25,000 is what they need in 4 years. So that $25,000 is future amount. So if we have the future amount, obviously the unknown will be present value. What is the present value? What is the present amount of what? $25,000 in 4 years. So how much do we need to invest today? That is present amount, so that we can come up with $25,000 in 4 years with 12% interest rate compounded annually. The same methodology, So the missing factor is present value. So the 25,000 has to be future value. C has to be the present value interest factor. All right. So in this case, 12%. We are compounding it annually, so that will give us 4 periods. Here is the present value interest factor. It is a single sum, 0.63552. We do the math, bingo, we come up with $15,888. So the couple need $15,888. Now, interest compounded annually at 12% in order for them to come up with $25,000 in 4 years. So here is what we just illustrated. Now look at this. The problem is slightly adjusted here. Here, interest is going to be compounded quarterly, not annually, for 4 years. So we need to make an adjustment to the variables. So if it is 4 years and interest is going to be compounded quarterly, that will be 4 times a year, and we are looking at 4 years, you multiply 4 by 4, so we now have what? 16 periods of compounding. Now, 12% interest rate. That 12% interest rate is per annum because we are compounding quarterly. We have to divide the 12% by 4, and that will give us what? 3% interest rate per quarter. So that is what we have here, 3%, 16 interest period. Here you have it, 0.62317 as the interest factor. Then you use that to calculate the present value. Now, let's take a look at how we solve for other unknowns. So we have, this formula has 4 variables. We're breaking that into 3. A, B, C. The C components have 2 variables, and that is interest rate and the period. So sometimes A is known, B is known, and one of the 2 elements of C is unknown. In such circumstance, C, or one of the elements of C, that is interest and period, if it's unknown, if one of the 2 is unknown, then C is unknown. So we can solve for C to determine the interest rate or the number of periods. So that is what we are talking about here, solving for other unknowns. So the first illustration that we have here is we are solving for the number of periods. So let's take a look at the problem. This village wants to accumulate $70,000 for the construction of a monument. At the beginning of the current year, the village deposited $47,000 in a fund that earns 8% interest compounded annually. How many years will it take to accumulate $70,000 in the fund? So here are the obvious. Let's go back to our ABC formula again. So here are the obvious. The $70,000 obviously relates to what? Future amount. Alright? The $47,000 definitely is the present amount, because the village is going to deposit $47,000 right now, and they desire to have $70,000 in the future. The question is, what is the number of periods that is going to make that happen? So choose. It is your choice. What do you want to do? If we say A is future value, if we say A is future value, then B has to be present value. Then C has to be future value interest factor. Alright? So let's work this out. 70,000 is the future value. The present value is 47,811. Then C right here has to be future value interest factor. What are we looking for? We are looking for the number of periods. That is missing. But we know the interest rate, and we know the interest rate is what? 10%. So if we know one of these 2, then this whole is missing. So we have X here. Alright? So we are going to go ahead and work this out. So what do we have here? So we have 70,000 is equals to 47,000 equals to 47,811 multiplied by X. So we can now solve for X. X will be 70,000 divided by 47,881, and that will give us 1.4641, and that will give us 1.46410. All right? So that is H. So this is the factor. This is the future value interest factor. So we are going to go to the appropriate table to figure out the number of periods, because we already know the interest rate. So which table do you think we are going to go look for? Obviously, we are going to take a look at the future value table. Why future value table? Because here, future value interest, A is future value, C has to be future value, all right? So we look at the table and we look for 10%. Why 10%? Because we already know 10%, but we are missing the number of periods. That is the missing element. So here is 10%. We are going to trace down until we find the future value interest factor that we worked out here. So if you trace it down, you are going to see 1.4610. Now, after that, then you now trace it to the right, and bingo, you have 4. So this is known, future value is known, present value is known, future value factor, one of the elements is missing. We work out C as the missing factor. Now here's the factor. We go to the table to work it out. Period. Bingo. So we have the periods is 4. Okay. Now let's take a look at okay. Now, we could have done this differently. How? Another option is to consider, let's work out the same problem, but the only difference now is we are going to consider this as present value, A as present value, then B has to be future value, then C has to be present value interest factor. That's to be present value because C is the interest factor of A. So since A is present value, B is future value, then C has to be the factor of A. Then we are going to go ahead and switch this around. Then present value is now 47,000, and then future value is 70,000. Not exactly 47,000, but 47,008, 47.8 thousand. So guess what? If you work this out, then the numerator will now be 47,811 divided by $70,000, and that will now give you the present value interest factor of 0.68301. Then you look at the present value of a single sum table using the interest rate to figure out the period. So if we do that, here you have it. Again, bingo, we still have 4. So it doesn't matter whether you consider this as present value or future value. If you work it out, just like we just demonstrated, the result is the same. So let's take a look at computation of interest rate. So we have already illustrated how to solve for present value. Sometimes future value could be missing, or present value, or number of periods. Now, interest rate could also be missing. The same methodology that we just illustrated, if interest rate is missing, then A is given, B is given. If interest rate is missing, then C is unknown. So we work out we solve for H, and we determine the interest factor, be it present value or future value. We look at the table to determine the interest rate. So that is what they did here. Take a look at this. I'm not going to go through all of this again. The interest rate is missing. Then we know the number of periods, which is 5. We trace it to the interest factor, in this case 1.7. We trace it up, and here you have it. So the interest rate is 12%. Okay, again, it doesn't matter whether this is considered as present value. If it is present value, this is future value. If this is future value, this is present value. And the same thing we have here. Again, we still have 12%. So let's take a look at annuity issue. So objective 6, we are going to talk about future value of ordinary and annuity due problems. Now the first question is, what are annuities? Here are the key components in answer to that question. Number 1, periodic payment or receipt of the same amount. 2, same length interval between such range, and compounding of interest once each interval. What does that mean? So for us to have annuity, 2 things have to happen. Number 1, the amount that we are going to pay periodically, or the amount that we are going to receive periodically, has to be the same. So if we were to receive money from somebody and we are getting $1,000 every month, that amount has to be the same. So the payment or the receipt, same amount. Number 2, requirement. The interval of time that we receive the money has to be the same. So every month. So if we receive $1,000 every month for 8 months and receive $3,000 in the next 4 months in a year, that is not annuity, because the amount is not the same. So the amount has to be the same. The time interval of receipt or payment has to be the same. So that is what we mean by annuity. Then the third element is the interest has to be compounded each interval. In other words, we're not talking about simple interest, we're talking about compound interest. Now, we have 2 types of annuity. We have ordinary annuity, we have annuity due. Ordinary annuity simply means that the first payment or the first receipt is due at the end of each period. So we are to receive $1,000 every month for 12 months. So the first $1,000 is going to be received at the end of the first month, so on and so forth for 12 months. So that is ordinary annuity. If the first payment is to be received now at the beginning of the month, that is annuity due. So the question is, how do we compute the future value of an ordinary annuity? Ordinary annuity, the same amount is being paid or received, same interval of time. So as you can see, for future value of ordinary annuity, the rent, assuming that we're paying rent, occurs at the end of each period. Okay, so no interest during the first period, because as you can see with this illustration, this is the beginning, and the first payment is due at the end of the first period, be it monthly or quarterly. So from the beginning to the end of that first period, there is no interest. Okay? Now, another issue here we are talking about future value of ordinary annuity. So we are trying to determine the future value of ordinary annuity. So in such circumstance, whatever amount that we are referring to is present amount. Because if the future value is the unknown, then whatever amount we are referring to, like we indicated, is present amount or present value. So let's take a look at an illustration here. Assume that $1 is deposited at the end of each of 5 years. At the end, so that is ordinary annuity, and earns 12% interest compounded annually. Here is the computation, okay? And we can also use the table. So the first $1, second, third, fourth, fifth. Then at the end of the 5th year, here you have it. This is the future value, all right? $6.35. Let's take a look at the formula, all right, of ordinary annuity. Here is the future value interest factor of OA, stands for an ordinary annuity, giving X period and interest rate. And now here is the formula, how you calculate the factor using the formula. And here are the variables: arrow periodic rent, FVX dash OA, that's ordinary annuity, that is future value factor or interest factor of an ordinary annuity. I stands for rate of interest, N stands for number of compounding periods. So let's take a look at the illustration here. What is the future value of $5,000 deposit made at the end of each of the next 5 years, earning interest of 12%? So what do we have here? The amount is what? 5,000, and we are talking about $5,000 every year for the next 5 years. So the amount is the same, 5,000. The interval every year for 5 years is the same. So this is this is annuity. Now, the first payment is made at the end of the first year. So this is ordinary annuity. So how do we calculate the future value? That is the question. If that question is posed to somebody on the street, on perhaps 87th Street and Stony Island, and you ask the person, what is the future value of $5,000 of $5,000 deposit every year for the next 5 years? The person on the street is going to tell you $5,000 multiplied by 5, that will give you $25,000 as the future value. But here in the College of Business Accounting Department, you are going to give a different answer. Why? Because you understand that the $5,000 every year for the next 5 years is going to earn interest. All right? So what we are going to do is we are going to solve this problem using the same formula that we have talked about. That is the ABC formula. So either we use the formula or we use, either we use the table or we use the formula like they did. So we are going to use our ABC formula to solve this problem. And even though, again, this formula is used to solve this problem, this is ordinary annuity. So what do we have here? What are we looking for? We are looking for what? The unknown is the future value. So A is the future value, is unknown. So if A is future value, like we indicated, B has to be what? Present value. Then, how about C? C has to be the factor of A, whatever A is. In this case, A is future value interest factor. Now, this is not a single sum, this is annuity. So we are going to have OA. OA stands for ordinary annuity. What interest are we talking about? 12% interest and 5 years. All right? And 5 years. So A is unknown. B is present value. Obviously that is given. B is $5,000. C is the factor of A. So like I said, we can use the formula or we can use the table. So let's take a look at the table. Now the question is, which table are we going to use here? Which table are we going to use? We are going to use the future value table, but not the future value of a single sum, because we are not dealing with single sum now, rather we are dealing with what? Annuity. So we have to use the the future value of ordinary annuity table. All right, of ordinary annuity. So if you take a look at the table, we are going to look for 12%, 5 years, and look for the applicable factor. So if we do that, 12%, here's the table. Okay, here we go. Here's the table. So 12%, we are going to also take a look at the period 5, and we trace it to the factor, and the factor is 6.35285. So we multiply 5,000 by 6.35285. That will give us 31,764.25 cents. So here you have it. So recall now, I said the question is, what is the future value of $5,000 deposited at the end of every year for the next 5 years? Somebody on the street will say 5,000 multiplied by 5, that will give you what? $25,000. But here in the College of Business, your answer will be completely different, because you understand the time value of money, and you understand that the compounding of interest has to come into play. So the person on the street said 25,000, you said 31,764. So your answer is right. The difference between you and the person on the street is the fact that you have paid your tuition, and you are here. So moving along, here's the factor, 31,764. Okay, let's take a look at another illustration. Future value of ordinary annuity. the company deposit $30,000 in a 12% fund at the end of each year for 8 years beginning December 31st, 2014. They are going to do it for 8 years. The amount is $30,000 every year for 8 years. That is annuity. The first payment is at the end of the fourth year. That is ordinary annuity. The question is, what amount will be in the fund immediately after the last deposit? Obviously, the $30,000 is present amount. All right. So, what are we looking for? The future amount. The example we just illustrated is pretty much the same thing. So, future amount is the unknown. We use the table to look for the factor, and here you have a 368,991. Okay. So, moving along, let's take a look at future value of an annuity due. Annuity due is first payment or first receipt is due at the beginning of the period. So rent occurs at the beginning of each period. Interest will accumulate during first period. Why? Because why will interest accumulate during the first period? Because the first payment is received at the beginning, so interest will accumulate for that. Annuity due has one more interest period than ordinary annuity. Why? Because of the first payment that is due immediately. So we multiply the factor, we multiply future value of ordinary annuity factor by 1 plus the interest rate. So that is the adjustment that we make for calculating the annuity due. Just a slight modification of ordinary annuity formula or table. So, comparison of ordinary annuity with the annuity due. You can look at this diagram yourself, essentially summarizing what I just discussed. So let's take a look at this illustration. It said there, assume that you plan to accumulate $14,000 for a down payment on a condo apartment 5 years from now. For the next 5 years, you earn an annual interest of 8% compounded semi-annually. How much should you deposit at the end of each 6-month period? Okay, listen, there's a mistake on this slide. On this slide, they have here future value of annuity due. This is wrong because they said here how much should you deposit at the end of each 6-month period. So this is ordinary annuity problem, not annuity due, as indicated here on the slide. So that's very confused. So we just illustrated ordinary annuity, and I'm not going to go through these again. Maybe I do. This illustration is different. Why is it different? Because here we are looking for the annual payment, how much we should deposit at the end of each month. That is the factor here. So which is slightly different from the example we illustrated. So let's quickly illustrate this by using our ABC formula as well. So the question here is how much we should deposit every year for the next 6 years. So if we are to use our ABC formula, so what do we have here? A is future value, B has to be what? Present value, then C must be the factor of A. So future value factor. But here we have ordinary annuity. What is the interest? The interest is 4%. Why 4%? Because interest is going to be compounded semi-annually. It's 8%. We divide that by 2. That gives us 4%. Then, what else do we have? For how many years? How much should you deposit at the end of each 6-month period? So, here we have, so because we are looking at 5 years and we are making deposit for every 6 months, so that will give us 10 periods. So we have 10 periods. So we are going to look for this factor. Now, what do we know here? The future value is what? The future value is 14,000. Now, so B is present value. So B is unknown. We are trying to determine B, the payment that we need to make every 6 months for the next 5 years to come up with 10,000. So C is known because we know this factor. How do we know? We know the interest rate is 4% and we know that the time is 10. So which table should we look at? Again, this is A and C has relationship, so we look at the future value factor. What is this? Ordinary annuity, 4%, 10 periods. So we look that up. We look up the factor, and that factor is 12.00611. So we have 3 elements, 1 is missing. So what is missing? B. So 14,000 is equals to X multiplied by 12.00611. So to solve for X, that will give you 14,000 divided by 12.00611. If you do that math, that will give you 1,166.07. So we need to make 1166.07 every 6 months for the next 5 years to accumulate $14,000. Okay, now here is the table, 4%, 10 periods, every 6 months for 5 years, and that is how we determine the factor. Okay. Another illustration. Again, there is an error on this slide. This is ordinary annuity, not annuity due, because it said here by making periodic deposit of 20,000 at the end of each year. So the question here is, what is the number of periodic rents? Okay, it is 5.8. If you use the same methodology that we use to calculate the periodic payment every 6 months for 5 years, the illustration we just have here, if you use the same methodology, that will help you to determine the number of periodic rents. The last issue, computation of future value. Now, this is ordinary annuity, okay? here this illustration helps us as to how to tweak the formula or the table of ordinary annuity for annuity due problem. So as you can see here, look at the factors. Number one, future value of ordinary annuity of 1 for 30 periods at 9%. Here you have the factor. Now, you can modify that by adding 1 to the interest rate, and that will give you 1.09. Multiply that by this factor. Here you have it. You now have the future value of annuity due for 1 for 30 periods at 9%. So basically talking about how to slightly adjust ordinary annuity formula or table to solve annuity due problem. So believe it or not, that is the conclusion of chapter 6 presentation.